Today we will talk about SHX, XLM, and XRP and make some connections between all of them that correlate to some esoteric things. And of course, I would like to talk about the possibility that Uphold will put SHX on its platform sometime between today, which is February 14th, and February 20th. And I don't talk about this kind of content a whole lot, but when you are able to connect these riddles to real world information, I think that there is value there, and I think that there are people trying to communicate with us who are not allowed to, and it's important to remember that crypto is equal to cryptography. So these kinds of communications shouldn't be too surprising, and if you approach them with logic and rational thought, then there are a lot of interesting connections there. So today I want to talk about dragons, and that's odd, but there are some really interesting ties into this kind of thing that has been put out a lot from David Schwartz, and how it ties into not only XRP, but SHX and possibly what we are experiencing now. So as far as the price action goes, we have been holding about 1.4 cents pretty well, and we do have a lot of sell orders to unload hundreds of thousands of SHX right now. And if you look at how our price is actually handling that, it's holding up extremely well. So here's our 1 week chart. Our 1 day chart looks good too. It's a bit hot, but I'm okay with that. Now, as we get down into the hours, our 4-hour chart is approaching this 1.5 cent zone, which has some historical resistance. And even on the 1 hour, we are rising up pretty well in this channel here. And I'm thinking that we might hit that 1.5 cent mark here today. So more on dragons. I've been interacting with Polly a whole lot, and he thinks that we might have cracked the code, and not as much for XRP, but how it might really be concentrating on SHX. Now, we've got this post from Can't Say STs, but welcome to the year of the dragon. So we're going back to dragons now, which is actually important because we are now in the Chinese Lunar New Year, and that year is of the dragon. Now, what does that exactly mean? It is ambitious, and it's an abundance of energy and power. Our colors are yellow, gold, and to decorate with blue, and you see that in some of the Bearable Guy posts. Those colors are a sign of prosperity and wealth, and blue is considered energetic for the dragon. The last year of the dragon was in 2012, when Bitcoin hit 100 and then 200. The year of the dragon before 2012 was in 2000, which had the dot-com bubble that peaked in March of 2000 before it did absolutely crash. And we've got SHX is available on Gate.io, founded in China, and users in Hong Kong are able to access it still. So that is a Chinese connection, I guess. So more from David Schwartz on dragons. Did you hear about the cowardly dragon who didn't obey? He only preyed on weeknights, or preyed on weeknights, which goes back to some of the characters in Bearable Guy posts. I remembered this, and I looked and I found it. So he put up some pictures of AI generated QR codes back in September of 2023 that incorporated dragons in there. Here he has a couple of others, and this kind of reminds me of some of the astrology things I will touch on here, but it also reminds me of XLM. So this is the first tie that made me want to look more into these kinds of connections. So you've got an S with 10 H's. 10 H's, which is equal to X in Roman numerals, so SHX. It was certainly kept quiet. It's a dragon year and also an 8 year, which are both traditionally or culturally very prosperous. So this is actually what I found more on the SHX ties in here, and it primarily has to do with this egg here. So Orthodox Christmas was on January 7th in the lunar calendar, which would be February the 17th on the Gregorian. For February 24th equals January 14th, lunar Orthodox New Year calendar. I'm not sure what this East means in here. From February 13th until February 24th, 10 days of excitement. And I will come back to this as it relates to the potential of SHX ending up on Uphold. So here is that egg. So we've got the sign for XRP and SHHH. So you've got 3 H's, and then X is the third letter in the alphabet when you begin at Z. So ZYX, SHX. Now for some astrology things, and I'm not an expert on this, but I do think it's interesting just because we are talking about moving into the age of Aquarius, which traditionally has to do with financial things and with enlightenment. I am not 100% bought into how that truly correlates to what we experience, but I do think that the elites in government and in the financial institutions do use these abstract kind of things in order to communicate in ways that are not obvious to the average individual. For example, in a previous video, I showed a clip of Christine Lagarde, who is president at the IMF, explaining how gematria works. Now we get into the February 14th and more astrology things. So if one were to view the sunflower as a reference to planets, you'd have a planet symbolized by color brown, which is Saturn, and a planet symbolized by the color yellow, or, the sun, in alignment. If you are then observing that the image shows us a literal water bearer, which would tie back into the whole Aquarius thing I just talked about, soaking the sunflower, you could interpret that astronomically as a date when both the sun and Saturn come into conjunction inside Aquarius. A quick search suggests that the particular event begins on February 13th of 2024 and continues through today, February 14th of 2024. I'm not suggesting that any of this is reliable, but it certainly is very interesting and very entertaining. And then you have the heart with teen in it, 214, and this color up here really looks like the blue that is used by SHX more than it is XRP, in my own opinion. So here's more gematria things on that 214 to 222 window as it relates to potentially ending up on Uphold. Uphold to list SHX in 24, 222, Uphold to list SHX 222, and there's some ties into the dates with February 22nd as well. And we got this from Uphold, and I thought it was really interesting because Uphold has been active with the SHX community on X again after not really responding for about a week. And this is interesting. Possible Uphold Inc. announcement tomorrow, which would be today. Will you be listing SHX tomorrow, February 14th? That would be romantic. And a bit more on the history between Ripple, Uphold, and SHX? Well, obviously, Ripple is an investor in SHX, and the chief technology officer of SHX was actually the first developer to work on the XRPL. So there's a lot of ties that go back a long way. But as it relates to Uphold, Ripple and Uphold have been tied together from the get-go. There's a lot of connections between the individuals involved in Ripple and Uphold, and a lot of other things that connect directly to them since 2018. And I think I've talked about this before in the past, but there's a little bit more information on all of this content here. It is a lot, so I won't read all of that, but if you're interested, go check out XX. And here's another connection for Uphold into Ripple as well. This investment firm is an investor in Uphold and Ripple. So a lot of the big people in the financial payments industries and how that industry ties into crypto are heavily involved in each of these companies, and therefore are heavily involved in SHX.